Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun exploring Doge cuts. And so I thought this would be, kind of a nice, fun thing to do because I know that there has been a lot of controversy, a lot of mixed feelings about Doge, whether the cuts are good, bad, or just open to discussion. So I thought it would be nice to do a live stream of this, and really we're just going to be going to doge.gov to look up the recent cuts and kind of discuss them rather than doing a short video with this being edited, exploring a specific cut. I thought I'd do this as a live stream so there would be a chat open for us to discuss as I do go over this. Hopefully this is a good time for you guys. And let me know in the comments. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, or a thumbs down if you don't want to see this again. But yeah, I mean, I just think that this would be a really good thing for us to be talking about. And if there is some, exciting stuff going on in the chat, I will move that over so we can, have it up here on the screen for us to discuss. But yeah, if you do want to see more content like this, please make sure you like and subscribe. Usually I just go over stocks and crypto, stuff like that, but I just thought this would be a nice way to make this more accessible. And since not everybody has an X account, rather than going to the Doge page there, which I think is how this was initially started to be tracked, the doge.gov website was initially just kind of blank. I think because they were focusing on cuts and stuff like that rather than their website. But now that is available. I'm just going to remove the banner here for a second so you can see the URL that I'm going to, doge.gov. And so personally, I have not really explored this very much, and so I thought we could just do that together. And I will put the banner up there. That is my handle on X if you're new to the channel, dgen_An, because I am Andy. Usually I have Ed over there, but I thought I would put the Doge detective there just to have some fun. So here is the Doge website. The first page that it brings us to is their latest work, which is really just some tweets or some posts on X, however you want to think about it. And so this is the Department of Government Efficiency, which is not actually a department. It's just a fun name based on the meme. And, the people voted for major reform. And so with that being said, I think that we can all agree that there is a large amount of government waste. And while some cuts, we may have issues with, but I think that if we view it as, not what is my personal interest, not what is your personal interest, should every single American be contributing to these causes? And I think a lot of them, what we will probably, I imagine, decide is that, while I might be able to voluntarily, electively choose to donate to some of these causes, it's inappropriate for all Americans to be contributing to these, and that we should be focusing more on our budget, on our deficit, on our debt. And so I think that this is actually being responsible, and I think that it has been compared to what Bill Clinton had done in the past. And I saw a clip recently of Obama talking about cutting debt, and that Biden would actually be, responsible for that. And we have just seen, the continued non-cuts, the continued growth of our government spending. And so I find that to be really interesting that it was Democratic-led. Now under a Republican, this is being led by a former Democrat. So yeah, interesting stuff. We can all get into that ramble on about that. And I will note that Chess Dad has in the chat, and maybe I will just, let's see, actually I don't want to pull that up there. I just want to, I might pull up the chat so I have it over here so we can see it. And there's that little YouTube advertisement at the bottom. And I might, let's see, live chat. And so, yeah, I'll just, let's see, I'm kind of new to having the chat over here, but I'll just have it above my head there. And so Chess Dad says, "Hey Andy, interested to hear your thoughts about Tesla and Musk and Doge. I have seen people saying things like Tesla is the next Bud Light. I could see that, although Bud Light is making a resurgence. I think Dana White was talking about Bud Light being a sponsor of the UFC, and that him getting some backlash with that. But Bud Light brings tons of jobs to the U.S. and employs a lot of people. And so I think that there are phases, and I think there are a lot of phases here. And I think a lot of what we're seeing with the backlash in Tesla, Elon, and Doge. I mean, no matter what, innovators are going to have controversial perspectives on things, and so I think that we're seeing that. With Musk, we always have, as far as Tesla goes, that's based on his very bad decision, the gesture that he used when saying, "My heart goes out to you." And I think that during Trump's address to Congress, Elon saluted and seemed very conservative with his hand gestures. I think that he really regrets that a lot. But what is being said about him regarding that gesture is propaganda. It's not true. It's not factual. He's an awkward guy. And this is another thing that I find interesting about Elon. With Biden, he had a stutter and he overcame it. And that's being celebrated for children with stutters to be able to overcome that. And let's see. Okay. And Sandy is saying, "Good morning. What's up? How are you doing?" Oops. And so I'll just move that up there so we can see. Yeah, I've got this welcome thing. I guess I'll just move the whole chat up there so you guys can see that. And maybe actually, would this be better behind? Actually, I don't always see that side of the screen, so I'll leave it up here. But yeah, like Biden celebrated for overcoming a stutter, whereas Elon Musk, when he was on SNL, he talked about that he has Asperger's and that he's kind of an awkward guy. And one of the things that I guess been coming to terms with in my life, I've always been in some way, shape, or form been told I'm weird, and through relationships, friendships, people have kind of mentioned, "Hey, I think you might be on the spectrum. You might have Asperger's." And so, I can be fairly awkward. I mean, I'm okay with stuff like this, but in groups of people, I just have a tough time. I think generally people can have a tough time in social situations, so maybe it's just that. But I find him to be a real inspiration for people who, maybe think a little bit differently. Their brains are wired a little bit differently. And I think that I happen to be one of those people. So I find him to be a real inspiration. I find that all of the backlash that he's getting to be unfair, although I do think the criticism of that gesture is warranted. But I don't think that labeling it and using it as, propaganda is appropriate. But anyways, enough tangents. This video is all probably going to be just a bunch of tangents, all sparked by the chat. So you guys let me know what you're thinking. But yeah, just diving into the. Ooh, I guess that disappeared. So that's actually. I might. Let's see. How do I? I need to figure out if I do continue to do Doge stuff. I need to figure out how to keep that chat in the foreground there, and. Yeah, I'm not going to figure it out live here, but if somebody does have some more comments in the chat, I will move that over so we can see. But yeah, so looking at the Doge website, maybe I can make this, I don't know, sorry, I'm just kind of fumbling with my setup here. Yeah, I just don't want to block what's on the screen. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so I need to do some... I guess, yeah, I need to, let's see. I need to do stuff in OBS to capture that. And so that is going to be, I'm sorry about fumbling with this. Actually, no, I'm not going to fumble with this now. It will take too much time. So I am just going to try to move this back over. And I have to just, let's see. This is frustrating. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to fumble with this. So give me 2 minutes. I'll try to figure this out. I don't usually, let's see. I don't usually fumble with this when live. I've had this all set up before, so And so I will make this be chat and crap. Sorry if you guys are seeing all this craziness. I don't want it to be that display. Okay, this is not good. So I will make that not visible. Okay, so I don't think that I want that. I think I want to delete that. And let's see. Okay, I'm just going to make that not visible. And then I need to, oh, I can just, there's a trash can. Cool. I'm just fumbling in OBS, the streaming service or the streaming platform. And so I need to get an application, audio browser. Maybe it's media source. Let's see. Capture card browser. Media source. It's probably media source. So I'll do chat. And this should be from, no, it's not media source. Dang it. 1 second. Yeah, so I'm just setting up so the chat can stay there so we can have, open discussions. And I am fumbling with this. Let's see. Okay, so window capture. Okay, cool. That's what I want. And so I want that to be chat. And let's see what windows I have. So let's see, OBS chat. Okay, cool. So I got that there. And so I will put this right here. And you don't, oh, maybe you want to see what I'm typing. So yeah, I'll keep that just above me. I'll keep it to the far left. And then this will be, okay, yeah, so I'll just leave that there, but then that will move behind the screen, so I don't need to move that. So, okay, that looks hopefully okay. I guess I need to, okay, 1 second. Let's see. I'm sorry. Bring the chat back. Sorry, this is painful. I need to add this to my dock. Okay, there we go. And then I need to just adjust that. Okay, so the chat is blank. I have to delete this again. I am sorry. 1 second, please don't leave. Okay, so I need to get window capture, and this will be chat. And I will have this from, okay, no, I don't want properties for chat. I want, okay, so this is everything, and I just need to crop it. I am sorry about my dysfunction, and that's actually kind of not so bad there. Let's see. And okay, let's see. Stretch to fit screen. I'm just trying to crop this so it doesn't have all this stuff at the bottom. I just never do this. Okay, so maybe it's, I'm sorry guys. I think I gotta open the filter and then adjust crop. Okay. And then so I'm just gonna, okay, so that's a little too much. Again, a little too much. Oops. And so I'm just cropping the bottom of that. Excuse me. So I think that's good right there. And then I can just kind of expand that. And so we have the chat there. So if you guys have any comments, any suggestions, any thoughts, that is there for you. And I can see it on my screen and it won't be disappearing over here. So hopefully that's good. And actually I could probably, I'm just going to do one final adjustment. You don't need to see. Oh, wait, actually, no. Yeah, well, I can put that below the banner. And so, and I will. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so I've just got your guys' chat there. I'm going to lock that into place. I know it's blocking me, but now it's right there. So let me know what your thoughts are. We can discuss. Okay, cool. So here we are on the DOGE website. Sorry about that little, 16-minute excursion there. But, on the DOGE website here, doge.gov. And so we can see all of these tabs over here. I have not explored this at all. So we can do that. And so we can click over here to the savings tab. So I'm not just going to do the latest work because this is just stuff that you could see on X. And I would rather have this stuff, I know that some people really don't like X or don't have it. And so I'm just going to go to these tabs here so we can see what is going on over here. Okay, so the savings tab. So the estimated savings so far, it looks like it's $115 billion. And so this is a combination of asset sales, contract lease cancellations and renegotiations, fraud and improper payment deletion, grant cancellations, interest savings, programmatic changes, regulatory savings, and workforce reductions. And so all of that, I'm sure there's stuff in there that we are going to disagree with that is going to be a little bit controversial or maybe a lot controversial. And then so the amount saved per taxpayer, I think that's, a big takeaway, $714.29. And this is per taxpayer. Amount is calculated using an estimate of 161 million individual federal taxpayers. And so I should note that this is for federal taxpayers. And so there may be some things that are relevant to your specific district or region or state. And those are things that would be on local and or state election ballots and not on, a federal ballot. These are things that we should be voting for. We should be agreeing for. Agreeing on that everybody, doesn't matter what your political party is, doesn't matter what certain agendas you align with or don't align with. This is stuff that whatever your views are, you should be in support of these things as an American. If you're not an American, if you're watching this, welcome, happy to have you here. But this is going to, be focusing on, what American tax dollars are going to. And also, if you're not American, this might be relevant to you because what we have seen is that a lot of this money is going to not just within the U.S., but outside. And so we can look at some of this stuff. And so down here, I think this seems like a really nice section for us to be exploring. We can see the most savings here and the least savings. And one of the things regarding the least savings that I find really interesting is I've seen a lot of criticism of, these cuts are very small. We've got so much more debt or, so much more on the budget. But, just the idea behind, a little piggy bank, a savings account for like a child, we get a child, our kids get them a little piggy bank. They learn that, they put, pennies or maybe not pennies anymore, but nickels, dimes, quarters into this little piggy bank. And eventually they have enough savings to buy, whatever it is, a toy or, an activity a child might want. And so that's the exact same thing that we're doing here. Savings accounts don't result in a lot of money by just cutting a lot of money or putting a lot of money in the account. It's a small amounts over time. And so this is a good amount of money, and that, I would be happy to see a $700 reduction on my tax return if I owe, or a $700 increase in what I would be given back. So I find that to be nice. And then if I do feel that some of these things, this could be a nice resource that DOGE could be. Let's say, oh, I get $700 back on my tax return, but I want to be giving to these good causes that have been cut from because of DOGE. I could then go to this website and look over all these things where we cut the most or cut the least, whatever it is. What am I aligned with that I think my tax dollars should be going towards? Then I can make donations which would then be tax deductible to these causes. So I think that's something that this could be very useful in that sense. And then we can also, look over these other tabs. I might dive more into the savings one and just kind of look at what's organized here. But let's just quickly check out the payments tab over here. So, this is a little bit blotchy here. I don't know how it will be on your guys' pages. But consistent with President Trump's cost efficiency initiative, DOGE will begin posting payments to show the public how taxpayer funds are actually being distributed on a daily basis. DOGE is starting by posting all of the grant payments issued from the Program Support Center, which disperses $215 billion in grant payments per year. This will be expanded to all payment systems over time. This is in beta and will quickly fix any mistakes made. Previously, payments were often made without descriptions, receipts, or invoices. I think that this is a really important point that, it's like when you write a check, there's the little memo line. I personally don't use that when I write checks, which is very rarely. But I think that that's something that the government should be doing, and not necessarily because, I don't trust the government or something like that, but because it's not the government's money. It's our money. And so we should know where that is going. So I think that this is a good step. I do think that, any cuts to jobs, there are going to be some mistakes with that. And so I think that this is kind of a contentious way of saving here. But starting soon, a now mandatory brief written justification submitted by the agency employee who approved the payment will be posted here. So I think that this is a good step. And the payments listed here have been approved by the applicable agency and funds have been dispersed. DOGE has not approved nor disproved any of these payments. Okay, and so this was last updated on March 9th, so about a week ago. And so I'm probably not going to dive into this, but we can see that these are, some payments scrolling down here. Maybe this is something that we could, look into in a future stream if this does pick up some traction. But given the way that I'm kind of fumbling with this, I don't know that it's going to be really that popular. I'll have to add some timestamps though, I guess. And so here, this is the spend tab. And so agency spending, Department of Health and Human Services, Social Security, Department of Treasury, Defense. This is one that, I was talking to a friend who is definitely, not on the more right-leaning side, definitely more on the left-leaning side. And they're talking about, the cuts that are being made. They're not happy with them. They want us to be seeing cuts to the Department of Defense. And so my view on this is that when you're starting something, you got to learn to crawl before you can walk, before you can run. And I think going after the Department of Defense budget, whether that's because of the military industrial complex, any, incentives that representatives and or the U.S. May have in having a strong, well-financed Department of Defense, that's going to be, a bigger fish to fry. And some of those reasons, some of those justifications are going to be very justified, very reasonable, but some of them are, I would say, going to be fairly questionable. And so I think that's something that needs to be considered. Department of Veterans Affairs definitely need to be giving support to our veterans. But if there is waste around that, how could that funding be rerouted, I guess, to better serve our veterans. And then, a bunch of stuff on here, I'm sure very controversial, with health and human services, education, transportation, homeland security, civil programs. So, lots of stuff here we could dive into, but we'll probably go over to the savings tab, like I had said. If we look over to the workforce tab, this is, meet the U.S. government. Trace your tax dollars through the bureaucracy. And so what we could see here is the U.S. government has, these are all of the people. And so with the executive branch here, we have 2.2, almost 2.3 million people, head count, working for the executive branch. And so years of tenure. So let's see, the majority of the people here have been working there in the executive branch for 5 to 9 years. And so that's going to be 431,000 employees is the majority there. And then shorter term is going to be, 218,000. But then getting, some of these people, 20 years, it doesn't really dip down to below 100, effectively below 200,000 until we get to around 25 to 29 years, with this dropping to around 88,000 employees. And so, I find this to be pretty interesting. I don't find it to be too surprising that the spike is, around 5 to 9 years, because this is the executive branch. So anybody working for the executive branch is going to be working directly under whoever is president. And so they would be working under that person who would have a 4 to 8 year term, depending on if they're reelected. And then having that additional year, that 5th or 9th year, I would imagine is for kind of a transition period to transition into the next administration. So that does make sense as far as where that spike is. The longer term stuff, I think that this seems pretty reasonable. And we also do have this spike, or actually 1 to 2, I would think maybe that's, midterm related. So I do think that kind of makes sense. But yeah, we don't want to have people just, in the executive branch, especially with that, having a turnover of 4 to 8 years, we don't want to just have people in there for 35 plus years, because, the executive branch should be dynamic based on who people are voting for. But anyways, this breakdown does make sense. With the average employee has worked here for 10 years. And I would think that a better fit would be average employee worked there for 9 years. So kind of, matching the president with a cap of 8 years. So I think that that does make sense. It would be nice if that was shifted a little bit on the shorter time frame. But anyways, looking over at the salary, looks like we see the max salary of 60 to 70,000 per year. So it's really not that much money, and this is going to be 16,000 subordinate offices. And let's see. That is, I would expect that to be higher. This is one thing that I find to be interesting, is that this is not a super lofty salary. That might be why there is more, insider trading, things like that. I know that's, definitely going to be popping up more if we look at Congress and stuff like that. But if I am aware of some bill that may be passed or something that may be going on that could be good for a company or an industry, and I'm only making $60,000 to $70,000 a year, that would be more appealing for me to, this business, NVIDIA or whatever it is, might be going up because of these programs that we're going to be potentially getting passed. I might invest in that, and then I get some more money back from those investments. So, I do think that it would be good to be paying more. And then also, it's interesting too how many of these roles are then going to be just like administrative roles, which could then potentially be cut back due to them just being wasteful and or be replaced by AI. I think a lot of these jobs that are here, whether you think this is good or bad, as technology evolves, jobs will be getting replaced, and hopefully those jobs that will be getting lost due to AI, there will be other positions opening up, which I think is, a good example for why, whether it's trade school or just, working with these technologies, computer science, I think those are programs that are going to be really the ones to be focusing on in the future. It's just like you go to the grocery store and, there are fewer cashiers, but there are more technicians or monitors of the auto checkout lanes. And so I think that it's just kind of a shift in roles. Are the same number of people employed? Probably not as many, but they're going to be higher, more technical roles. So I think that is something to be paying attention to. And then the total wages, this represents over $211 billion, with the average age being 47 years old. So that, I would think that, in the executive branch, I would think that, people are going to be, tending to be more than 35 years old, because the president, the minimum age requirement is 35. So that's really where we start to see this kind of top off here. But at the same time, if these are subordinate offices, I would think you'd have more interns, more entry level support staff, stuff like that. And so I would expect the executive branch to not taper off so much, getting into the younger ages. So this is 20 to 24. So whether in college as that would be as what's it called when you're working over the summer? I forget. But a short-term position, whatever that's called. Or just starting out shortly after college, I would expect there to be more jobs here. Also, you have younger people entering government either directly after college or, why can't we get this down to 18? Do we need all of these people, the support staff, to be maybe 18 is too young. There needs to be a little bit of professional service first, or professional experience. But I think that, a way that we get government to be younger, presidents to be younger, is by getting people into government younger and earlier on. And I don't like that this tapers off at the beginning. We should see this kind of flatten out and taper off as, of course, 65 plus years old, those people should be retired. Maybe this is offensive to some people, but if our retirement age is 65, I think that government should reflect that and encourage retirement and people segueing out of government. I don't think, think what you want about Trump, about Biden, about, I don't think Obama was close to 65 years old. I think he's younger than 65 today. But I think that we should be, the candidates, the people that inspire us, we should be allowing younger people the opportunity to be moving up higher into positions and, be kind of drawing the line at 65. Okay, this is the retirement package. This is, how that should be taken advantage of and utilized. Or, this is also going to be controversial. Maybe that retirement age should be increased to reflect the workforce. And so, I think that this candle here, this bar, 65 plus, over 125,000 employees, I think that they should be taking advantage of those retirement packages, and they should be enjoying their lives better, their families, or, perhaps pursuing careers in a hobby that they're interested in. So, yeah, I just think that there should be more of this on the lower end here, and there should be a hard line cutoff. We should have more 20 to 24-year-olds working for the executive branch, whether that's in administrative roles, in internships, that's the word I was looking for, or entry-level positions. We should have more of those. We should have more than 52,000 employees that are 20 to 24 age, more than 53,000 versus 65. More than we have, more than double the number of people working in the executive branch that are over 65 than people who are 20 to 24. I think that's bad. I think that we need more representation of younger people in the government. So I think that this is a really good, valuable statistic to be considering. And so I might actually post this on X, talk about this more. I think that would be good. And then so we could see cabinet level positions, large independent agencies. So we can look more at this. And so this is just the executive branch, cabinet level agencies. So, I can dive into this. Wow. I think that this is a big rabbit hole that we could definitely be diving into. I think that would be really interesting. And so maybe this is something to be considering for another video, another stream. And yeah, very interesting here. And so I'm just going to go back to see okay, so workforce here. So this begins in the executive branch. And then let's see, large independent agencies. Let's see. And so this is, okay, so all of this stuff, Small Business Administration, Smithsonian Institution, Government Printing Office, Federal Trade Commission, Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, a very important agency, but at the same time, we want to be making sure that we're making smart environmental protections, because I think what ends up happening with stuff like this is a lot of, we may not be doing things that are maybe environmentally contentious in the U.S., and then we effectively outsource that. And I think one example for that is, the oil industry, and that we get a lot of oil from the Middle East, where we do have a lot of oil in the U.S., but we need to be, no matter what, however we get our food delivered, food transported, clothing transported, that's all going to be because of things that are environmentally not so desirable. But if we're just outsourcing all of that stuff to other countries, we want to be making sure that we are being environmentally aware of what is going on, and we also want to be in control of that. And so outsourcing that to like a country like China that doesn't have as many or as good of regulations, that's not good. So we need to be responsible for that stuff. So I think that's a really interesting one that I'm sure will be fairly contentious. Just coming back to the workforce, the executive branch here, medium independent agencies and small independent agencies. So all of this stuff we could definitely be diving deep into. But maybe I'll skip that for a different video. I can talk about, should we dive into savings, payments, spending, workforce? Let's look over here at regulations. And so unconstitutionality index. I'm not used to reading that word. And since I'm fumbling with my words, I might have a little sip of coffee here. So we have that there. And so the 18.5 index here. And so this is the number of agency rules created by unelected bureaucrats for each law passed by Congress in 2024. And so let's see. And, I think that this is something that, has been thrown around a lot. Unelected bureaucrats are just, unelected. There's a big criticism of Elon, of the DOGE committee, whatever you want to call them, the Department of Government Efficiency, that they are not elected, but, it was a part of basically the package for what people voted for with Trump. And so, I think that part of the way the government works is by stuff that's unelected. And if we, don't, follow up and hold these programs, this funding, the rules and the laws to account, then we're going to end up with wasteful spending. And one thing, Elon's talked about how, the number of laws and regulations that are in existence today in the US is more than has ever existed in the history of the country. And one thing that, I find to be, a helpful analogy for me is that in the normal videos that I do going over stock charts, I draw lines on them. And over time, I accumulate those lines and it becomes very hard to remove some of the older ones because I get sentimentally attached to them. I feel like, oh, that was useful in the past. Maybe it'll be useful in the future. And so I kind of get these like legacy lines on the charts. What we get with these rules, laws, regulations is that over time, it gets hard to cut them. It gets hard to delete those lines from the past. We get attached to them. And so then we just end up wasting a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources on these things that are perhaps not as useful as they used to be, because maybe a law is put into place because there's a problem. But then over time, people just start following that law or following that regulation. And so maybe, some funding needs to be put into place to periodically check that those things are still being followed, but the initial enforcement that was required to set that standard, that is no longer required. And so this funding, these rules, regulations can taper off over time is kind of my view with that. But maybe, that's a bad perspective. We also have the Code of Federal Regulations by agency. And so this is, environmental words, sections of regulation. So this is just tons of words. I think that, AI is going to be very helpful with this, searching through this stuff, finding waste, and just being, that's, I think that, the Department of Government Efficiency, cutting all of this stuff is going to be useful in the government today because of things like AI, because we're able to be efficient enough to siphon through or filter through all of this stuff and find where there might be waste, where questionable spending, whether it's waste, whether it's fraud, whether it's corruption, or, maybe it's justified. And, the way that we can filter through that is by using AI. Otherwise, this would just take way too much time to go through all of this stuff. And kind of, looking at this, just all of these words, this is hundreds of thousands, but we can see, the millions up here at the top. And one thing, that I'm kind of intrigued by is this join button up here, which is behind the chat. So I might, since there's no chat going on right now, I guess I'll pull that up if we do get some more discussion going on. But the join button here, what does this bring us to? And so join the U.S. Digital Service, DOGE, drive change that uplifts the American people. And so the DOGE team is looking for world-class talent to work long hours identifying / eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. These are full-time salaried positions for software engineers, product managers, designers, lawyers, data scientists, business analysts, cybersecurity professionals, and other fields. And so the one that I would probably fall into would be the data scientist. I have a PhD and have worked with a good amount of data, but at the same time, I not that savvy in these areas or, these areas. So I don't think that I would necessarily be a good fit for something like DOGE. But, utilizing AI, I think could make, most anybody helpful for it. So you can kind of voluntarily look for things that kind of stand out, dive into this to just kind of get a better understanding of it. And so that's kind of what I view, going over DOGE like this is kind of as like a voluntary service that, this hopefully makes it more accessible to people. Rather than doing something formal like this, I can just talk about it in videos casually and we can, discuss. And so what I am going to put up here is, let's see, let's just go over to savings. So we can look at this and we can see that most savings here, the agency efficiency leaderboard, I feel like the stuff that's the most savings, probably going to be somewhat controversial. But, let's dive into it. If you guys want to, we can do this, and then we can see maybe, since we're over here, might as well just look at the least savings. Department of State, NASA, maybe you could think that that's maybe a conflict of interest with SpaceX, stuff like that. But at the same time, I think that we probably underfunded NASA with cuts to programs like the Space Shuttle program, things like that. And so, Department of Energy, Transportation, those are all going to be very important. Department of Defense, kind of talked about that already. But let's look over at the most savings. And the number one is going to be the General Services Administration. And so that seems kind of like a no-brainer to me. What is the GSA, General Services Administration? There's probably going to be some very general stuff in there that is probably, going to be wasteful. And then I guess I should scroll down here, and we can see the wall of receipts, and we can, toggle between two views of the data, with one being the total value, which is the potential expenditure, including options, versus the savings, the difference between the total value and the amount currently obligated. So we can see those there. And so this is value. So this is, 440,000. So it's, it doesn't really seem like too much there, but these small amounts, just like putting spare change in the piggy bank, this is going to add up. And this is going to be a DEI, a support cut. And I guess the A maybe is for allies. I'm not sure. And so maybe that's a little bit controversial. I'm not sure. But I think that, we want to be moving people higher up based on merit, regardless of the color of their skin, gender orientation, all of that. And so I think that a program that focuses specifically on elevating people, not because of merit, but because of these other things, I think that makes sense generally, but I know that there's going to be some controversy around that. But anyways, let's not necessarily go to the wall of receipts, but I guess I will just scroll down here. Grants, Department of Education, maybe we want to look at, this is all, Department of Education on the top there. So maybe that's something that we want to look into, because that's been a hot topic lately. Real estate, this is, going to be cutting leases. And so I think that some of this is going to be very justified. Some of it is probably going to be controversial. So we might want to be talking about that. So if there's any requests in the chat, I don't see anything there. That's why I've toned that down. I've grayed that away, because not necessary to have that up there, but I can pull it up if we do get some chat going on. But so, let's look at the leaderboard here, I guess. Let's click on the GSA to see. Oh, this is all that it says. So most savings, least savings. Okay, General Services Administration. So that makes sense. So can't get any more information there. Contracts, DEI. Personally, I'm not really that interested in that. So I'm not going to go to it. It's also 440,000. So let's see. Corporation for National and Community Service. I was in AmeriCorps. I can say that having served 2 years in AmeriCorps, there was a lot of waste there. And we could actually look over, this is compelling to me. So maybe we want to look at this. Corporation for National and Community Service. So screenshot not yet available. FPDS has an update lag. And so this is strategies. Change management and business process, re-engineering professional services. Let's see, view on FPDS. Let's see where this takes us to. Okay, so we can dive into the nitty gritty here. So this is kind of interesting. And let's see if I can increase the size of this a little bit so we can all view it more. I know I cut a little bit off there. Yes, we'll just do it like this. So let's dive into this document. We can see all the buttons up here. We can print it. We can get some help. And so the award type here is a delivery task and the prepared date. So this is all in February. And so the award, let's see, we can look up what this agency is. We got the codes here. That's probably going to be, let's see, what was this tab? This is going to be national service at $3 million. Yeah, so let's look at, yeah, total $3 million. Okay, so this period of performance start date, this began in 2022. Completion date was September 2024. Ultimate completion date was February of 2025, presumably because it was canceled then. And let's see. Active obligation, it looks like there's some refunds going on. Corporation for National and Community Service. And let's see, Powered Strategies. This is in Virginia. And so I'm kind of curious to get an idea of what this is specifically for. Maybe I'm missing it on here. But this is support and professional staff, I believe. Administrative management and general management. Yeah, so I mean, I think that's something that could definitely be cut. Description of requirement: modernization, professional services, organization change management, and business reprocess engineering. And so no set aside used. I don't know what that means. And so, yeah, I mean, so this, as far as I understand, is support staff, administrative management, and general management staff, and that this could be cost cut savings by modernizing the professional services for this. And if that saves the U.S. taxpayer $3 million, I think that's a good cut. And I must say that, you know, having served in AmeriCorps for 2 years, U.S. National Services, a National Community Service Award, this is something that I looked up during a stream a while ago. I don't want to look up the awards, but yeah, let's see. National Community Service. Let's see, I'll just look up AmeriCorps. And so, okay, so let's just look up AmeriCorps Home. This is something that I served in, 2 years after high school. I was in AmeriCorps, and there was a good amount of waste there. It was very frustrating for me. But I think that there are a lot of good things about this program. And I think that cutting administrative staff would be a good thing. This is the program that I was in for 1 year, the National Civilian Community Corps, the NCCC, and then following that, I believe I was in state and national, and I did Habitat for Humanity, did construction the second year. And so, let's see, partners, let's see. Funding opportunities, community members and volunteer, your benefits. So the Siegel AmeriCorps Education Award. So let's look up that. I got 2 of those. It helped me get into college by going into community college, getting my grades up, and then matriculating into school. This is going to be, probably too much detail there. Let's look up your benefits. See living allowance. Okay, money, that's the award. What is the stipend? Yeah. Let's see. So this is going to be based on different time frames. So I had done it for 10 and 11 months, approximately 2 years. And I saw that there were other programs where this could be done for, months to weeks, possibly days, just being very casual service experiences. And I think that personally is wasteful because, in my first year in the National Civilian Community Corps, we would work for different nonprofits throughout the southeast region of the country. And we would work with different nonprofits for 6-week periods of time. And so one of those was, I worked at a Boys and Girls Club, got very connected with the kids, was a mentor for them, whether doing homework in the after-school program or just being good role models in the after-school program, mentoring, tutoring kids at local schools. And being there for 6 weeks, that gave us enough time to connect with the kids, but then we left. And so I think that kind of was probably going to give them abandonment issues. And, it was very tough for me to leave. And so I imagine tough for them as well. And so I think that shorter time frame programs not going to be as good. AmeriCorps is something that I could definitely look into, but I don't want to get too lost in the weeds with that. So I'm going to come back to the DOGE website. And that's, and maybe this is just a better way to get to that page. Yeah, so I can just, so if you want to explore this stuff yourself, you can go to the wall of receipts, just click on the link there. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller so you can see everything just fine there. You can just click on that link and get to see what was cut. And so, on that note, this one being less than $500,000, maybe we want to look at this one, the Bureau of Land Management, which looks like it's a DEI program. So let's look at that link. And so we can get kind of the same receipt over here. And so this is federal mediation and consolation. What is this? Consolation service. This is going to be in Little Rock, Arkansas. So you can see here. And socioeconomic data, minority-owned business, Black American-owned service, disabled veteran-owned business, women-owned business, women-owned small business. So those all seem like, fine things, good things. But I don't know. Let's see, type of set aside. So I think that this is description of requirement. And so I think this is just DEI support, and so I think that's why that was cut. They were probably just searching for anything that's DEI related to cut. And so, I'm new to looking at these receipts, but yeah, let's see. So yeah, this is not terribly interesting. Recovered material sustainability. But I would just like, EEO. Yeah, I don't know what that means. So, legal business name. So, we can maybe just Google search what this business is and see. Okay, so this looks like HireGov. Okay, so let's click here. The most powerful government market tools. Okay, so this is probably up there because it's. Let's see. Maybe on LinkedIn. I don't think that. Oh. Let's see. Yes, this is something different. And so, yeah, I'm going to close that. Yeah, so looking at the receipts, not really that interesting. Oh, well, those are contracts. This is the wall of receipts, yes. Let's look at grants. Some of these, Department of Education, these are millions of dollars. Let's look at, can we sort this by value? View all grants, so let's click here. So, one that's pretty lofty, 14 million right there, 17 million. So let's look at some of the more expensive ones, 15 million, but 17 million looks like it's the leader there. 35 million, USAID. I think it should be said, don't use the phrase USAID because that's misleading. USAID, 35 million, not surprising. 28 million, USAID. 30 million, 30 million. So 36 million is 47 million. That's a lot of money. So let's just go with that 47 million one. Let's just see what that is, what that's going to. Okay, so savings. So it would be nice to get more information on this. 47 million. Okay, so show all agencies. Yeah, it would be nice for this to be like more dynamic to get more information from this. And these receipts are kind of boring. Let's see. Yeah, view all contracts. Maybe there's something that would stand out here. And this, it's a small number, but small numbers add up. Think about that piggy bank. Online subscription to, what is this? Online subscription to the New York Times. I don't know. Is that something that we should be paying for? No. I mean, I think that I think that employees of the government or the government should be getting news, whether you agree with the New York Times or not. But I think that, just like I would have to pay for a subscription for myself, I don't think the government should be paying for a subscription of the New York Times. And $41,000, that's a lot of money considering that it's like, $1 for subscription or whatever. So $41,000, it's not a lot of money, but is this a good use of taxpayer dollars? Of, not you as an individual taxpayer dollars, but all of us across the board, U.S. taxpayer dollars. I'm not sure. Terminate so reason for modification. So I think that would be useful for the one that was on, this DEI one. So reason for modification, close out. Okay, so maybe that one was just ending. No, I guess they just closed it. Terminate for convenience, complete or partial. Okay, so let's see. These are, okay, so I want to look at, I'm just looking at all of these. Okay, so this is DEI support, so it's support, and then change management and business process, reengineering, professional service. I think this is just going to be, implementing AI, implementing automation for getting rid of some of that support staff. Let's look at some of the bigger ones. Travel support services. This is $2.7 million. And let's see, I'm just going to close these other receipts that I was looking at. That's loading. Let's see, 3 million, 3.5 expert witness support services. The other one just loaded, so let's look at that. Terminate for convenience, complete or partial. And we can see down here, notice of termination for convenience, travel support services. And yeah, so is this like a booking agent? I'm not sure. $2.7 million. Maybe this will create some inconvenience for some people, but it's just consulting services. This is potentially, a waste of taxpayer dollars. Annual subscription to, Politico. I was going down here to the bigger ones, but this is just like the same as, these are subscriptions. Why are we spending, all of these numbers add up to, millions of dollars, I imagine, if we look at all of these subscriptions. This is 3.5 effectively, expert witness support services. So let's look at that one. Let's, guess it's taking a little bit time loading, so I'll scroll. The next one that's over $1 million, executive coaching services, WTF. We'll look at that in a second, but looking back at this one, which was the one up here for expert witness support services, terminate for convenience. This is Accenture Federal Services LLC. And scrolling down here, Expert Consulting Services. Yeah, I don't know. So this is going to be, that was for Expert Witness Support Services. I mean, I think that some of that would be justified, but 3.5 million, I don't know, that's a lot of money. Executive Coaching Services, so $2.4 million. Let's look at that. Yeah, I mean, it's just like how much, taxpayer going for all this stuff. I don't know if this is most useful use of taxpayer money. Termination for completion is the justification up there. And we can see executive coaching services. Okay, so, it's just coaching for people to become executives. I don't know. Let's see, the next one that's over $1 million. Personnel physical security support services. So that would be something like select Secret Service, I imagine, stuff like that, which I would find kind of surprising that this is being cut. But maybe this is not something for, across the board federal budget purposes, but maybe more on the local, regional type of expenditure. Human Capital Resources and Concepts Incorporated. And the justification down here, personnel physical security. This apparently is not something that all of us should be contributing to, and maybe just on the smaller scale, more local, individual, coming out of their budgets rather than out of the pockets of everybody. The next one's down here. This is getting to, and I find this to be very interesting. It's like if I'm going to Venmo you $500, is that going to be a problem? Will I have, or maybe it's $600, I forget. Is that going to be a problem? Are you going to have to report that on your income tax? Yes. But if it's $499, are you going to have to? No. And so this $9,999,999, that seems a little sus to me. And this is for OMWY. So what is OMWY? Let's look that up. OMWY meaning training. Office of Minority and Women Inclusion Annual Report. And so that's Office of Minority and Women Inclusion. Okay, so I think that minorities and women should be included. But do we need to be spending $10 million on training support? Training support. That's $20 million. Yeah, I mean, I find this to be sus because, it's like both of these are $1 below $10 million. So is there, maybe, so let's see, what is this? So I'm just going to pull up Grok over here. Maybe you like Grok, maybe you don't. I like Grok. And so is there a reason why let's see, a federal contract why a federal contract would be, is there a reason why a federal contract would be less than 10? Would there be a reporting requirement if a grant were to be above a contract, I should say, a contract were to be above 999. And so, I don't know if this is deep search. Ask Grok, aggressively search the web. Ask Grok. I'm just going to do a regular search, and maybe I want to do a deep search. Is there a reason why a federal contract would be less than $10 million? Would there be a reporting requirement if a contract were to be above that number? Why might a federal contract be less than $10 million? Yes, there are plenty of reasons a federal contract might come under $10 million. Federal contracts vary widely in scope, purpose, and cost depending on the needs of the government agency involved. Here are some common reasons. Smaller scope of work. Okay, so, is there a filing requirement if the contract exceeds $10 million? There isn't a universal filing requirement that specifically kicks in the moment a federal contract exceeds $10 million. The $10 million mark isn't a magic threshold in federal procurement law that triggers a unique filing or reporting obligation across the board. However, there are nuances depending on context, and I'll walk you through them. Standard reporting via FPDS. And so this is FPDS, Federal Procurement Data Systems. And so that is what that is. And so as mentioned earlier, federal contracts are tracked through the Federal Procurement Data Systems, the FPDS, when they exceed the micro purchase threshold, currently $10,000 for most cases. This applies whether the contract is for $50,000, $5 million, or $15 million. So a contract exceeding $10 million, like the one for $10 million and one, gets reported to FPDS, just like the one for less than $10 million. And so reporting requirements exist well below $10 million and doesn't change in nature when you cross that line. Agencies must submit data on the contract's value, contractor, and purpose, but this is standard procedure, not a special filing tied to hitting $10 million. So that's good to note. I just find that to be a little bit fishy. You know, it's like the $99 sale rack or, something like that. Okay, so no specific $10 million filing trigger. So the Federal Acquisition Regulation, or FAR, the rulebook for federal procurement doesn't designate $10 million as a specific cutoff for new filing requirement. Other thresholds matter more. Micro purchase threshold of $10,000. Below this, reporting is minimal or non-existent. And so $10,000, let's see, that can add up. So I find that to be a little bit fishy. I think, every dollar that we pay in taxes should be accounted for. And so this seems like it's a loophole, seems like it's a little bit fishy. And so I find that to be a little bit troublesome. Okay. And so simplified acquisition threshold of $250,000. Above this, contracts need more documentation and completion, but still no unique filing beyond FPDS. And so above this, contracts need more documentation and completion. And so that is kind of the threshold, not $10 million. And so major acquisitions, so large contracts, often in the tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, might involve additional oversight. For example, the Government Accountability Office for Congress, but $10 million isn't the trigger for that. So crossing $10 million doesn't flip a switch, requiring a distinct filing beyond what's already mandatory for smaller contracts. And so some possible contextual requirements. So that being said, there are situations where a contract exceeding $10 million might intersect with specific rules or oversight depending on agency program or contract type. And so agency-specific policies, some agencies like the Department of Defense have internal thresholds for additional review or approval. For example, the Department of Defense might flag contracts over $10 million for extra scrutiny under their acquisition planning process, but this isn't a universal filing requirement. It's procedural. And so again, if you move into that, is that the six, seven, eighth decimal place, then, maybe that raises some, hey, this is in the eighth decimal place. I'm going to pay attention to that more. So yeah, I think that this is contextual and that stands out a little bit to me. And then here, bullet point 2, the congressional notification for certain high dollar contracts, especially in defense or major infrastructure. Agencies might notify Congress, but the threshold is typically much higher, like 25 million or 50 million, and varies by statute or appropriation law. Cost or pricing data. And so under Part 15, contracts over $2 million as of recent updates might require certified cost or pricing data if they're not competitively bid. This isn't a filing in the public sense, but an obligation between the contractor and agency. The $10 million mark doesn't change this. Okay, so audit thresholds. The Single Audit Act requires entities receiving over $750,000 in federal funds annually to undergo an audit, but this applies to recipients like states or nonprofits, not the contract itself, and $10 million isn't the trigger. Why $10 million might feel significant, it does to me, because we are here in the 7 digits, then getting over into the eighth digit over there, stands out a little bit. And so if someone's asking about a $10 million threshold, they might be thinking of a practical or informal benchmark. It's a round number that could signal a shift from routine to major in some minds, say for budgeting, public scrutiny, or media attention, but legally no specific filing requirement pops up at $10,001 that doesn't already apply to $1 less than $10 million. And so the bottom line is that there is no standalone filing requirement that activates when a federal contract exceeds $10 million. Reporting through FPDS, maybe I said FPSD before, sorry about that, is already in play for contracts far below that. And while bigger contracts might face more oversight or documentation, depending on the situation, $10 million isn't a defining tipping point in federal regulation as of March 16th, 2025. If you've got a specific contract or agency in mind, I can dig deeper into context. Just let me know, so maybe I will do that. And so let's come back to this, where I saw, these two that stand out to me. And so this is the consumer financial. And so these both just stand out. They're more on the DEI side of things. And so that's just money. Okay, so this is cybersecurity support, over 10 million. But yeah, let's look at these. Let's look at these receipts here quickly. And I'm just going to close these other receipts down. And yeah, I'll open the other one so we can look at both of those together. So this first one that I had opened up, this is closing out a contract. Neuro Leadership Institute Incorporated, and this is going to be for the Office of Minority and Women. I just closed the tab, but training support, psychological safety, termination. And so yeah, some aspects of that I'm sure are going to be good, but yeah. Let's see, closeout. Culture Point LLC. This other one was Neuro Leadership Institute. I don't know. OMWI Training Support, DEI Training Termination. And so, while I think, this stuff may have good intentions, I think this may be good, but I think that the reality is probably like, do all taxpayers need to be paying for this if we are in a massive amount of debt across the board? I think if you guys have ever had credit card, been in debt, trying to pay that off, or student loans, I think it's something we can all relate to. The way that you pay off that debt is not by having these additional trainings, these additional things. It's getting to the basics. What do we have to fund on the basic fundamental level? And this stuff, while it might have good intention, is going beyond that. It's the expenditures that are not necessary. It's going to be tough to service that debt, and that is something that we need to be doing. Coming down here, millions of dollars. We see this one here, tens of millions of dollars. Cybersecurity support services. So let's look at this receipt. And I'm just going to have a sip of coffee. This is termination for completion. And let's see. Mantech Advanced Systems, International Incorporated, Cybersecurity Support Services, BPA order, safeguards and risk managements. And so I feel like if the DOGE guys, the DOGE boys, find this to be a wasteful expense, I'm kind of fine with that. I don't know about, is it not Lycos, but Ciphers? I don't know, but like cybersecurity safety stuff, I think that can be kind of like spammy and not really that useful. So, I'm fine with this. That seems like a good cost savings. And this, I should say, the value. These are the contracts. But so from this contract, perhaps it's a little bit misleading. I view from that contract, it's action obligation. And so this is, $5 million there for the action obligation. Base and exercise options value, $7 million. Base and all options value, total contract. And so this resulted in, a savings, I believe, a return of funds of nearly $4 million. So I believe that is, the cut that we see there. Whereas this, it's not going to be the full $10 million. As far as I understand that, that is what I would assess from that. And so I guess with that note, let's scroll up to the top here. This 41 million one that we had looked to with the New York Times. So let's just wait for this to load. Maybe I'll just go back here, but that's, the New York Times. Let's see how much of that $40,000 is actually going to be saved. All of these $5 million, lots of them, that, seems kind of fishy to me just because like all these $5 million contracts, why don't we just have one, let's see, like a 35 million contract, that seems a little bit fishy. Okay, so this is, I guess that we've spent $41,000 on that, and so we get a zero return. So it's just because this is a completion or just termination of the contract. We've spent $41,000 on the New York Times, and that's not necessary. And so I was looking at so these $5 million contracts. This is from Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and this is the Evaluation Research Services, BPA. So let's look at these, and I might just open, a couple of them to see if, how different are they? Okay, so these are different contracts. Termination for convenience. This is $5 million. I get zero refund on that. Termination for convenience of the government. And these are just, this is kind of crazy that there are these multiple $5 million contracts. And they're just blanket. This is from Trayone Technologies. This other one is from Urban Institute. This EBT Global LLC. I don't know, why are these all different? That just seems fishy to me. I would imagine that seems fishy to you as well. Let's see. So, I've been streaming for more than an hour, and this is probably just going to get fairly redundant. $100 million, so that's not redundant. Let's look at this. Management and strategy, consulting services, and this is for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Let's look at one of those. But yeah, I might end the stream soon just because it looks like there's only one person watching, I believe. Nothing going on in the chat. I wanted this to be kind of a back and forth dialogue, and we haven't really gotten that. So, this might be the only time that I do a Doge video, and that's totally fine. And so, yeah, let's get that to load in case I click the second one. So, yeah, this is, $100 million to Deloitte Consulting LLP. And this one is Guidehouse Incorporated. Yeah, this all just seems fishy to me. Like, why do we just have these blanket $100 million contracts to these various legal businesses? Let's just do the bottom one. I don't think I did that one. Accenture Federal Services LLC, $100 million. So yeah, you'll have to let me know if I'm going to end the stream if you're just joining now. I've been exploring some of the DOGE website. I think there's a lot more for me to explore on here, but if this is not really a popular stream, I'm not going to do it again. So let me know if you do want me to do this again. I would like to, because I think that there's definitely, let's see, some aspects of, we could look into the details here of payments, spending. This is probably not too exciting there, but the workforce, I find this to be really interesting. And so this is something I personally would like to dive into more. I think also just looking at the age demographics and considering just general headcount, time people are spending in these positions. So I think that this is pretty interesting, but I don't want to just be going on forever. And so I'm just going to throw this up here. If you did find this helpful, me just sharing my thoughts, hopefully engaging with you guys in the chat, let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like and subscribe if you do enjoy this kind of content and want to see more of it. I will be streaming tonight for Ticker Request Live at 9 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you join for that. If this does get some traction, I will do another Doge video. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday and rest of your weekend. Take care, you guys.